This is the plaintiff, Corey Watson. He says he rented a 3-bedroom house to the defendant and his wife, and they trashed his once beautiful place. The guy owes him back rent. He used the security to fix up the place, and he still owed $2,890. That's why he's suing. This is the defendant, Marvin Chambers. He says he lost his job during COVID. His wife left him and he fell a little behind on the rent. The plaintiff didn't honor the rent moratorium put into place during COVID, and the guy harassed him mercilessly. The plaintiff needs to be held accountable for the pain and suffering he caused him, and therefore he owes this guy nothing. He's accused of going on a rent strike. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $5,000 for harassment and defamation of character.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff says he rented his once beautiful 3-bedroom house to the defendant, and the guy trashed it. But the defendant says the plaintiff didn't honor the COVID moratorium on evictions and locked him out illegally and put him on the street. It's the case of you're out of here.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Watson, you are suing Mr. Chambers for a bunch of rent that you say he still owes you after an eviction. And you, of course, have a counterclaim against him for $5,000 for harassment, pain and suffering, and defamation of character. All right, so Mr. Chambers, my understanding was renting from you since when? April, May of 2019? When was it?
Yeah, I worked with them on the deposit. They didn't even end up paying the full deposit. They had a
How much of a
there.
deposit did they give you?
They gave me $880 of the full $1,000 deposit.
And then
Okay.
according to you, $500 of the security was non-refundable?
Yes, ma'am. That was on the lease.
Okay.
That he signed.
After the lease, by the way, what happens? You still have the security, of course, and then he goes month to month?
Yes. I said I agreed to work with him. I said that'd be okay.
Okay. So then what happens? When's the first time that you don't get complete rent?
The first time I did it was September 2020. In August, his partner, I guess, she informed me that she'd be leaving. She gave me a month notice, gave me her half rent of August. And then in September, all I got from Marvin was $100.
So he didn't pay the rest of September?
No, ma'am. He
didn't pay anything in October?
No, ma'am.
He didn't pay anything in November?
No, ma'am.
And you are just charging him prorated rent in December because at some point he leaves in December, correct? When do you file the eviction case against him?
My property management team did that, ma'am. I'll get to that in just a second, if that's okay.
Yeah, get there sooner. So the property manager actually files all that stuff when?
The property management team, they filed on November 4th.
Okay. All right. Now, Mr. Chambers, what happened? Why was it that you didn't pay September rent?
Your Honor, September was paid. I gave him $600 cash, and he said, don't worry about the other because I know you're going through something with you and your wife.
Okay, I'm going to need to see a receipt for the $600.
He never, after my wife left, when I gave him money, he never gave me a receipt. He didn't give me a receipt.
But see,
for August.
here's the thing. The guy who wants to prove he gave $600 is you. So anyone who lets cash leave this hand needs to have a receipt go into this hand before they let go. You see? Because anybody could say I paid cash, right? What about in October?
Yeah.
Did you pay rent in October?
No, October was when I tried to file for the paper for the COVID, so you won't get put out the moratorium or whatever.
Okay, I don't know what it's called, but essentially it's assistance for someone who can't pay their rent so that they don't get evicted?
Yes.
Okay, so you applied for what, the county or the city to be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I even had a few churches offering to give him money, and they called him, but he turned them down because it wasn't the whole amount. Then I got a job a week or two later, so I texted him and said, hey, can we work out something, get on the payment plans so I can catch up on rent? He said, well, if you don't have $1,300 by this date, you're going to have to get out. And I was like, hey, that's why I filled the paperwork out. And then on the first day of work, him and his management team, which I don't know who she is, because I've been dealing with him since I moved in. I thought he was a private landlord. they came and changed my locks while I was at work.
Really?
So I get off work, yes. So then they text me where his management lady, whoever she was, she texted me at work and started harassing me.
What did she say?
She said, "Hey, you no good, such and such. If you can't pay, you need to go," and all this. I'm like, "Lady, who is you?" And so when I got off work, I called the police department and told them that my locks was changed. And they say, "Sir, well, he did this illegally in the state of Arkansas, so you can break back in your house and change your locks," which what I did, which I also texted him and showed him after I'm like, "Hey, why you
back
do
it up.
that?"
Wait a minute. So the police didn't call him and tell him to open up. They told you to break in?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you break in? I mean, you're a big guy, I can tell, even though you're not in my courtroom.
What I did was I took a screwdriver to the back door that he knew that was kind of messed up since we moved in there, and just popped the lock open.
So that's
wasn't
all
too hard.
All right, so you were able to get in right away.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I have a question for you, Mr. Watson. Did you change the locks on him?
Me personally, I did not. No.
Well, who did at your direction? Because you're the landlord. Nobody's doing it the neighbor didn't do it. Who did it?
Yeah. Well, I hired the property management team, and they said they would help get him out.
So your property management team, did you pay them?
Yes. Yeah. I'm still in agreement with them right now.
Okay, so I think that's hysterical. So they're the ones who changed the locks because it's 100% illegal. Did you know they were changing the locks? Be honest. Be honest.
No, honestly, I did not know. This is how it went.
So when they changed, how did you find out they changed the locks? Because he texted you?
No, my friend actually worked at New Door. He sent me a picture of them changing the locks, and I didn't know it was illegal.
I know. It sounds super juicy, and I get it. It sounds great. Nothing sounds better than that. Someone's not paying you. It's your property. Who does he think he is? Get out, or I'll take you out. Sounds awesome, except it's illegal because the law says you cannot take the law into your own hands. You have to file an eviction case. But you may not know that, but darn, the property management company better know that. And
yes,
maybe in their minds, oh, he's not going to be savvy and he won't call the police. But what do you think this guy was going to do? You don't think he's going to break in there and get his stuff? Because his stuff is still in there. Did you put his stuff out or his stuff was still in there?
I never went in the house.
No, I think they left your stuff in there, right, Mr. Chambers? They didn't put your stuff out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can I add something?
So they're not even good at the lockout. Because obviously he's going to get back in there. Okay. So when do you get out? December what?
I got out December 9th because he forgot to mention that he typed up a fake eviction notice from his home computer and stuck it on my door.
No, that's the first step, is that the landlord themselves have to put type a notice and put it on your door. You can't go to court until you've done that, so it's not fake.
Okay, I was just
Yeah. No, that's all right.
But my thing was, I wasn't trying to live there rent free. It was just that I was going through with my wife, and what I'm saying, I gave this man almost $20,000. A lot of money.
Well, no, but you lived there 2 years. It's not okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
All right, listen, I get what you're saying to me. You were struggling.
Yes.
You lost half the income paying for the rent because your wife and you separated. You lost your job. You didn't get your job again until later. I get all that. You have certain protections. Your protection is nobody's allowed to lock you out. And you have this, of course, the CDC protections and whatever protections your state of Arkansas would give you. But you need to understand that any protection anybody gives you never wipes out the rent. Ever.
Yeah, I understand that.
The rent is always due. That is a contract between two private parties.
Yeah. That's true.
So what I have to do is enter an order that establishes how much you owe. And I also wanted to know, there was some security deposit. Can we talk about that now? You agree that $500 of it was always non-refundable, right?
Yeah, it was something like that in the rent. So but I gave him the full amount.
Okay, let's see what the lease says and whether you have. Let's hope the lease says that you gave it to him.
And I have a witness.
Who's your witness?
My ex-wife.
Oh, well, we're doing that right now. Let's get the witness up.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Crystal Jones.
Crystal. Okay, Ms. Jones. Do you remember how much of a security you paid?
We paid the whole security deposit. When we moved in, he agreed to let us do it over 3 months' time. And that's how we did it.
I'm going to need to see some canceled checks or some receipts. Do you have any, Ms. Jones?
I didn't write. I gave him cash every single time we paid.
Good. And did you get a
sometimes
receipt?
He would come to the house. Sometimes he would come to the house and he would say, hey, I don't have my receipt book, but I'll give it back.
Okay,
So
I need you to listen to what I'm going to say. Everybody needs to listen to me. Don't ever in your lives, ever again, give somebody cash without having a receipt. You can't just say it.
And why doesn't he need to prove that I only gave him $8.90?
Okay, because here's how it works. Well, that's an excellent question. Here's how it works. You're telling me I gave him $1,000. He's giving you credit for $8.90 without seeing any further proof from you. If he walked in here and said, she gave me $0, he could get away with it because the person who's asking for the deposit back are you guys. So you're the guys with the burden shifts from him to you when you say you paid the full $1,000. What is it you're looking at, Mr. Watson, to show me that it's not $1,000, that it's $8.90?
Oh, I kept up with it every month of what they paid me. I did not write receipts. I did. I guess I got too content because the renter I had before that paid on time. She kind of talked me out of it. While I'm explaining to her, I kind of talked myself out of it because your lease is different than most leases. Most leases say X was paid or X will be paid by such and such a date. Let's read your lease. A deposit of $1,000 is required by the resident, and $500 is non-refundable. You don't say here, oh, she's going to pay it in time. Basically, your lease says there's $1,000 deposit. So why isn't she right that they should get credit for $1,000 deposit if you're not writing anything about how it was partially paid in there? I think she's right. Well, I mean...
All right. So let's talk about this. According to you, yes, it is because you don't give receipts and you don't have carbon copies of receipts, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay. Well, she's a smarty pants and you shouldn't have let her go, Mr. Chambers. All right. So, Mr. Watson, let's talk about the condition that Mr. Chambers left the place in. Did you take pictures of how he left it?
Yes. There were numerous pictures that I took.
What's this? This is a dog chewing. Did you have a dog there, Mr. Chambers?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. Ooh, the dog was even getting at the windows. That doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, like I say.
Ooh, what happened to that door? What happened to that door? That's a fist.
Yeah, well, I was moving something and it hit it.
I don't know. It looks like a fist. How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot. 6 foot.
You sure that's not a fist?
No.
Okay. Well, either way, it's a damaged door.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm admitting to it. I mean,
yeah, I got to tell you, that's more than. Well, let's stop a second. I don't need to look any further because that alone is more than $500 worth of damage. So I'm very clear on the $500 because $500 of the deposit was non-refundable. The other $500 goes with the damages. Now where are we? Now we have $2,890 in rent that's due, and we got a guy who did an illegal lockout. And so now what do I have? Now I'm the judge and I want to impose a penalty on the illegal lockout. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find that illegal lockout is going to cost Mr. Watson a symbolic $250. And I'm going to find that you owe him the rest of the rent, which is $2,640. Verdicts for Mr. Watson. On your counterclaim against him, obviously not $5,000. What I'm finding is that you're entitled to a $250 break on the rent for the illegal lockout as a symbolic gesture because they're not allowed to do that. That's my verdict. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers, how do you feel about the outcome of this case? I can't believe you're surprised.
Like everything else in this country, it always go for the other way. Like everything else, people that do wrong always get done right.
All right. Okay. Mr. Watson, let me ask you, how do you feel about the outcome of the case?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I feel like that he should have been liable to pay, and I feel like the judge seen that as anybody should have. It ain't like that I didn't pay for the house or been paying for the house. I had bills as well, and I went to work. So I'm very happy with how it turned out.
All right, Harvey, let's get your take on this case. What are you thinking?
Doug, one of the issues here is whether the defendant paid the rent or not. I am telling you, please listen to me on this, that if you are a renter and you are paying rent, you've got to get some form of receipt. If you write a check, that's fine. If you give him the money, the cash, get a receipt.
I've been separated from my wife since 1994. Does she have a right to the home I just bought on Social Security?
This is someone who's been separated from their wife for 27 years.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, he bought a house, and I guess he's on Social Security now, so he probably isn't really well off. He's
I think that was the point of him
scraping to
adding
make
that.
ends meet. But
he bought a
that house is what we judges call marital property. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's co-owned by him and his wife.
Yeah.
And there's no getting around it.
I mean, if she turns around and files a divorce now, it's property that was acquired during the course of the marriage.
That's right. I wish I had better news for the guy, but what's baffling to me is how do you stay separated for almost 30 years and never actually go ahead and end it?
Do you know who did that?
Who?
Yeah, my grandmother.
Really? Your grandmother?
She was separated from her first husband passed away. She was separated from her second husband for almost 30 years, and they never got a divorce.
I'll be darned.
They didn't own anything, so it didn't matter.
Right.
But they just never bothered to get a divorce. And when I used to ask her, why, she would say, mejor sola que mal acompañada.
Better alone than
Poorly accompanied. I'm like, no, I'm not asking why you're separated. I'm asking why you're not divorced, you know.